Hi, you've clicked on to today's tropical tidbit for Tuesday. Here's our little devil of a wave we've been watching. Came across the Yucatan yesterday, area of greatest low-level turning, and here it's starting to pop some more convection, but all the convection died when it crossed land yesterday, so it hasn't been able to build much upper ridging over it, and thus it's not under the greatest upper-level environment, and although it would have a chance if it had more time over water, this is a spread-out area now that will be moving inland within the next couple of days and will not have time to organize, and as expected will not become a tropical cyclone. But this is another shot of rain coming into Mexico and possibly some rain for southeast Texas as well. Here's stalled front number 1 that I've been warning about coming off the southeast coast. You can see area of thunderstorms going off under the nosing ridge aloft. You can see the cirrus clouds rotating clockwise, and this is something that should be watched closely because homegrown mischief can occur, and when you get balls of convection like this, if they can sustain themselves, you gotta watch. But it looks like, to me, that this isn't too significant of a threat to worry about because surface convergence is not that great. Surface pressures are high. This convection looks like it's ready to fall apart here later today, so we'll see how it goes, but keep an eye on it. Tail ends of fronts under an upper ridge means low shear and the possibility that they could try to pop something out, so we'll keep an eye on it. A second front will be coming down later this weekend and early next week, and we'll have to be watching for that, possibly something backing down into the northern Gulf or something trying to form out here, so we'll keep an eye out for that as well, but not a significant threat on the table right now as it appears. Here's a tropical wave coming towards the eastern Caribbean, and this is a nice little amplified feature, has some low level vorticity to it. And there's something interesting about this coming across in that it will have to be watched. If we look at the current upper winds, here's the wave out here. You can see a little bit of an upper ridge over it, and here's what little bit of tut we have is right in here. It's sort of an inverted thing, you can see, with the winds forming more like an inverted trough. The real tut's out here getting scooted off. So we're left with an inverted tut over here, and what's going to happen is that this ridge over here over the wave starts to build in over here. This upper low backs away to the west, and this cuts off and follows slowly behind. So what you're left with in 3 days is upper low, ridge, and outflow channel right in here. And look what's sitting underneath at the surface. Very nice little tropical wave in here, and the GFS forms a little bit of a surface low by the time it gets over here the day after. So this is something that might have to be watched. It will be hard to get anything going when we have that downward motion in the Atlantic. You can see that we're still mostly cloudless in here. So it might be hard to get something going, but this should definitely be watched as it comes west. And of note is that if it does come west, it'll be taking a straight shot either into Central America or into the Bay of Campeche. This will not be curving up towards the United States because this big high, deep layer high in here will still be sitting over the central US, and this will direct everything westward for the moment. So this is not an immediate threat to the United States, but it is something to watch for development, as this is a nice little ventilated area with an anticyclone over top, with upper lows ventilating it on either side. This is what can happen when the tut starts breaking up. You know that you can barely find the tut. It's like, where's the tut? It's not here. Instead, you've got its cut off upper lows, and in between them are areas of prime ventilation for tropical development. So it's something we have to watch for. Here's the European run from last night, and there's not much to look at on this run. You can see that it tries to develop a couple of lows out in the eastern Atlantic. Here's the next front dropping down later this weekend. We go out, and towards the end of the run, still not much. But here's what I want you to notice is the pressures. If we go back to day 2 over here, here's 1012 confined to the monsoonal circulation in the southwest Caribbean. Here's the 1016 isobar all the way across the islands and right into the Cape Verde Islands out here in the Atlantic. Now, if we go back, I'm going to leave those lines up, and if we go out to day 10 over here, here's the new 1012 all the way up from here, and here's the 1016 pushed all the way up into the North Atlantic over here. So you can see that the pressure is greatly lowered in here, and the European is setting up a favorable environment for tropical waves to propagate westward into and try to develop out west in the Gulf of Mexico and the southwest Caribbean. And also notice how far north the Azores high is over here, way up at 45 north. It's supposed to be, normally it's centered down here at 35. So it allows the pressures to lower in here and shifts the strong trade wind flow further north than normal. And this is also a favorable pattern for tropical development, but we'd like to see this weaker. If we wanted to really crank things up, we'd want to see this farther south and weak instead of up here and strong, although this isn't too bad for tropical development either. Now if we take a look at the GFS even farther out at day 15, look where it has the pressures, 1012 isobar all the way up here into the Caribbean and the 1016 way up here, and look at how weak the Bermuda high is by this time. It strengthens it up here like the European by day 10, but when you go even farther out it weakens it, and you've got nothing above 1020 millibars here in the Atlantic, just a weak Bermuda Ridge, weak Azores Ridge, really nothing very strong. And the ensemble mean is even more impressive. It has the 1012 millibar isobar all the way up in the Cape Verde Islands and across the Caribbean islands in here. And to put this in perspective on how low this is 4 millibars below normal compared to the climatological average for August. This is 4 millibars below normal in the tropical Atlantic. And if you get the 1012 millibar isobar this high to the north, there's almost no trade winds beneath this. Beneath 15 north there are almost no trade winds. If you get pressures this low, winds in here are almost non-existent. The trade winds are very slow. That means more convergence, more cyclonic circulation, more upward motion, and ultimately it should lead to more tropical cyclones. And here comes the MJO trying to come out to the Pacific, got scared, now it's trying to come back and run back to mommy here in the Atlantic where it belongs. It might swirl around in here a little bit, but it's coming right back to the octants that favor upward motion in the Atlantic, and that is corresponding to the low pressures that you see in the tropical Atlantic here shown on the GFS in 2 weeks. So you can see that things are really lining up for activity to start get going, and it's going to be a very active, especially the second half of August, and we're going to start seeing a bursting of storms. And I still don't see a real problem with getting up to 18 named. We should start bursting here. We've got a couple of systems to watch now, but we should close out July fairly quiet. But August is going to bring in the bang, and we should be ready for this. The MJO is going to be just staying in these octants, so upward motion is going to be staying in our basin. So where else are you going to go? It can't get in here. If you can't get upward motion anywhere else in the world, where are you going to go for tropical development? Here. It's the only place to go. That's the only place where the MJO is hanging. So ultimately, we're going to have an above average season. And even more importantly, it's going to be an above average landfall and impact season on the United States coastline and the Caribbean countries, and that's what matters the most. The overall number is not what matters to people as much as how many storms are going to threaten their home and their property, and that's what's going to be bad this year regardless of the numbers, is that all these storms are going to make landfall, and that's what we should be concerned about here, is that all these storms coming west means that it's going to be a bad, perhaps historic landfall year for the Caribbean and the United States. Think about it. We've already had all 3 classified systems that we've had have made landfall. 2 have impacted the United States with tropical storm conditions, and we've already had 3 other systems that could have developed with another day over water that hit Mexico. Every single system that has tried to develop this year has made a run at land. Every single one. Think about it. We haven't seen a single recurvature of any tropical system or tropical disturbance yet, and we usually do early in the season. That's the scary thing, is that most systems recurve in June, May, June, even July. A lot of systems recurve. We're not seeing that. We're seeing this ridging pattern directing them all west, so people should have good reason to be concerned about the season. So I just hope everyone's ready. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.